Now, a woman who died almost a year ago today, whom I miss a lot, is Molly Ivins. She was a Texas-based journalist, as most of you know, with an incisive satire that had no equal. A couple examples of her wit. When Patrick Buchanan declared in 1992 at the Republican National Convention that America was engaged in a cultural war, she said that his speech probably sounded better in the original German. When the Texas legislature was set to convene, she wrote, "Well, every village is about to lose its idiot." Molly grew up tall and big-boned and often felt out of place at the private schools she attended. She wasn't like the other girls, and for sure wasn't like Southern women of her generation, never hiding her feelings or her strength or mincing her words. She never married. I mean, who would she have married? I miss her feisty voice and her irreverence. She just called it like she saw it. Now, the people that I have mentioned thus far have the kind of courage that I might call moral courage, and that is in short supply. They said yes to the uniqueness of their own voice, their own call. They said no to convention. They said no to authority when necessary. Others who live in death on my fridge are people like the children's TV personality, Mr. Rogers, the film director, Robert Altman, philosopher, Richard Rorty, dancer, Isadora Duncan, and the great minister, social justice advocate, William Sloane Coffin. Martin Luther King Jr. isn't on the fridge, but his vision of a just society, which he died for, is always before me. Now, there are several pictures on my fridge of people who are not famous or even known to the public at all. Nevertheless, these people and the memory of their deeds give me inspiration. One is the iconic picture of Oklahoma City Fire Captain Chris Fields carrying one-year-old Bailey Allman, gravely injured in the 1995 bombing of the federal building in downtown Oklahoma City. I think you've all seen that picture. Bailey later died from her injuries. The picture says it all for me. The strong fireman in his bulky gear, he's carefully cradling the tiny child and looking down at her. The child's hair is matted. She's covered with ash, lying helpless in his big arms, and he's looking right into her face. And that look is saying, like, hang on, little one, hang on. It's, as I said, an iconic picture. I've wondered at the tremendous power of the picture, which we've seen so often since it was taken that fateful day. For me, it is the willingness of the strong to reach out for the weak, for someone to take the risk, for some person of courage to pull out of the fire, whatever fire of pain and destruction we find ourselves in. And it is a picture of maternal love, a modern-day Madonna picture. Although the firefighter is male, still that maternal life force, that cradling that gives itself to protect and nurture the young. Such a beautiful picture, such an inspiring picture. Another rescue picture that I have on my fridge is dated May the 24th, 2003. And it is from the front page of the New York Times, showing little Emily Kade, age 2, being helped by several anonymous men from her flattened home in Corso, east of Algiers, following an earthquake. Now, her eyes are bright and she looks to be uninjured. The caption on the picture tells us that the child's cries for her mother, who was alive and well, led rescuers to the little girl 2 days after the earthquake killed more than 1,600 people. They had despaired at finding anyone alive, anyone else. Now think about it. Here's this little 2-year-old buried under rubble for 2 days in the dark, alone, and she kept crying out. That's the key. She kept crying out. What courage must that have taken? Just to keep crying out, not to succumb to the darkness, to the despair, just to keep crying out. Sometimes, you know, as individuals, we just have to cry out to ask for help. And sometimes we just have to cry out as a people. We have to cry out for justice. We have to cry out for peace. We have to cry out for the dignity and for the worth of all people to be recognized, people of all colors and ethnic groups, for people who love people of the opposite sex as well as for people who love people of the same sex, for people who are poor as well as for the well-off. We have to keep crying out. And as a church, you know, we're not a quiet church. We cry out. And I hope that we will always cry out. So what does it mean to live with courage? Some people believe that people of courage are people who are not afraid. No, in fact, it's just the opposite. Fear is an indispensable quality of courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, but it's the capacity to act in spite of our fear. Now, I've been reading recently Ernest Becker's wonderful book, The Denial of Death. It's a classic work that I somehow missed when it was first published back in 1973. And in this amazing book, he talks about the human need to repress our fears, fears of the chaos and fragility of life. He says that when we choose to give up our illusions of our safety and control, to give up our illusions and to sit with reality as it is, he says, only then can we mature into the fully human. And he says, full humanness means full fear and trembling, at least some of the waking day. It means feeling these uncomfortable feelings, at least some of the waking day. So courage is not about being fearless. It's about being willing to rest in the uncertainty of our given lives without reaching for protection from existence as it is.